Today we got a story time of a psychopathic math teacher that basically tortures these kids, but the table completely flips when the kids catch this math teacher doing something that they shouldn't be doing. Anyways, yeah, sit back, relax, leave a like on the video to claim your free nothing, and let's get right into it. If you want to send in a story, Instagram, Discord, both in the description, and we're going to call the person who sent in this story, we're going to call him Mark. I got the name from the comments, by the way, so leave your names in the comments. But anyways, right, so Mark, he was in 7th grade, and this was a math class. Anyways, right, so, on the first day of class, he comes in, and on the first day of class, you can normally get a pretty good sense of, how difficult the class is going to be, if, the teacher is, a good teacher, if they're strict or whatever. And so on the first day, right, Mark got into class, and, the teacher was sitting there at the front of the desk, and, people were kind of filing in, and they were sitting down, and they were kind of, talking to each other. And then at, 2 o'clock on the dot, because that's when the class started, the teacher's like, all right, class, I just want to let you know that this will not be an easy A. If anything, most of you might not even make it past a B. I'm going to say the average of this class will be a C and potentially a D. And everyone was just like, bro, hold on, chill out. We've been here for 30 seconds and you're already telling us that we're basically going to fail and there's nothing we can do about it. Okay, she didn't say that exactly, but the teacher was just like, nah, bro, I just want to let you know that basically none of you guys are getting A's and you're all going to have to work very hard to barely get a C. And everyone was just like, all right, bro, this is 7th grade, chill out. But anyways, right, the class did not get much better after that point. So a couple weeks in, they had their first test or whatever. And in class, the teacher was really just not good at explaining anything. And by not good at explaining, I don't mean the teacher wasn't couldn't comprehend it, herself. Because the teacher understood what was going on, right? She went to school, she's taking this math, and this math isn't hard relative to what she's done. Because bro, this is 7th grade, she went to college. But she was almost, I can't say intentionally, because that means I know intent that I don't know. But it almost felt like she was intentionally wording things more difficult than they needed to be. You know how sometimes people can kind of spice up their language, but not in a productive way. They honestly just try and make they use bigger words, or if in math they say things almost to gatekeep you, or just make it harder to understand when it doesn't need to be harder at all. Yeah, being more precise with your language is good, but just adding fancy words to sound smart doesn't actually make you smart at all, bro. I'll be honest. But anyways, right, the first test comes around and everyone's kind of feeling all right, bro, we don't really know what's going on. We tried studying in the book, but let's just hope this teacher isn't ridiculous with the test questions or whatever. So they come in and they sit down and, Mark is kind of waiting there, a little bit worried, kind of just a little bit nervous, because if on the first test, you'll get a pretty good sense of how hard the teacher is / how difficult their questions are. And yeah, so the teacher starts walking around, handing out the tests. Mark looks at the test, kind of goes through all the questions. I don't know about you, but I definitely will sometimes just read through all the questions first before starting, just really quickly to get a sense. And Mark was looking at this stuff, and it wasn't anything he recognized from the homework, because Mark was trying to do well in this class, and it was just sucks the teacher wasn't good and also was going to be strict. But Mark did all the homework questions, bro. He grinded, he went for it. But when he was on the test and he was looking through all the questions, dude, none of them were anything related to the homework. I'm sure it was somewhat related, because a lot of math is related, but it honestly looked the teacher just grabbed a math assessment from a different class at this point. Yeah, it had the same they were doing the same kind of operations, I guess, but it was asking stuff that they'd never been asked before. And sometimes teachers can be the tests are going to be challenging. They're going to ask you to think beyond your normal comprehension, and I can understand that to an extent, but at a certain point, if the kids don't know how to do something, the kids don't know how to do something. A lot of times when teachers make tests, if they have 45 minutes to give the test, they'll make the test length 30 minutes, or that's the expected length, so then kids have more time to if they need to work more, or they want to check over their answers. But this test was incredibly long. In fact, honestly, Mark said even if he knew how to do all the problems, he wasn't even sure if he'd be able able to finish it, like, if he knew the problems, and he wasn't even in a situation where he knew the problems. So by the time the class ended, the teacher's like, all right, guys, we're out of time. I'm going to come around and collect the work. Mark was starting to panic a little bit because he only had, like, stuff scribbled down for half the questions, which basically meant an instant fail at that point. And then he also wasn't confident at any of his answers. So Mark looks around the room before, like, the teacher collects most of the work, and he sees kind of like a similar picture from everyone. Everyone is kind of at a point where they just, like, they have stuff written down, but, like, honestly, like, there's only, like, half the questions are filled out. So Mark is like, oh, bro, I'm gonna get a curve. Like, we're good. We're chilling. It was kind of early, but things start to get interesting pretty fast. So comment curve if you made it this far. So CURVE. I'm gonna filter the comments by curve and heart as many as I can. I'm pretty busy, but I'll do my best. Anyways, right, so Mark was looking around, and he was like, okay, like, we're definitely getting a curve on this assignment, bro, which if you guys don't know, because I don't know if you've ever had one, basically when everyone does bad on a test, the teacher will kind of, like, adjust all the scores, like, they'll move all the scores up, or sometimes they'll move them down, but normally they'll move all the scores up proportionally, or maybe not proportionally by, like, plus a certain amount, but it all fits on a certain curve so that, like, the average will be higher, because, like, if everyone fails, right, the average is going to be, like, a fail, and the teacher's not trying to have a fail be the average. So, like, they'll be like, okay, we're going to make the average a B, and now adjust everyone's grade accordingly. So Mike was like, or Mark, sorry, not Mike. Mark was like, all right, bro, like, okay, I'm feeling pretty good, like, this will be fine. So the next day comes around, and, Mark goes into, his class, and the teacher's like, all right, guys, the average was a 52. And Mark's like, sitting there, like, all right, so I failed, but so did everyone else, but that's okay, right? Like, I should get a curve. And the teacher says, I'm satisfied with these results. There will be no curve. And Mark's, like, jaw dropped to the floor, and everyone else was like, bro, you cannot be serious. So after that class ends, Mark, like, checks his phone, and he notices that he's been added to a group chat. And he checks it, and he opens up the group chat, and he sees that all the other people in that group chat, some of the numbers, like, he didn't have saved, but some of the numbers he did have saved, and they were friends of his that also happened to be in that class. And he realized pretty quickly that this was a group chat of everyone who was in that class. And one person said, hey, I made this just because I feel like the treatment we're going through is pretty unfair. And everyone else is like, yeah, this kind of sucks. Like, I don't think this is okay. And someone was like, I don't know, should we, like, report this to someone? What should we do about this? And the person's like, yeah, I made this group chat just so we could kind of organize and figure out what we're going to do. And so, right, at this point, they had no idea what they were going to do, but they were considering, I don't know, reporting it to the dean, confronting the teacher or whatever. But also, they just weren't totally sure what to do. However, the following events would define what they would do in a very interesting way. A very interesting way. So anyways, right, Mark and one of his friends, we're just going to call this guy Ben, because, bro, if I don't have an idea for a name, I'm just going to say Ben, because it's a pretty good placeholder. Anyways, right, so Mark and Ben, they walk in, and, they're basically trying to, like, they talk to each other beforehand, and they're like, all right, we got to do well in this class. Do you want to just, like, show up to class 20 minutes early and just, like, review the homework so we can, like, get questions? And, Mark didn't totally want to do this because that was kind of infringing on his free time, but he also was like, I need to do well in this class. Like, sure, whatever, that makes sense. So anyways, right, on the first day that Mark and Ben were planning on doing that, they got to class. They felt the door handle, and it was unlocked, so obviously they were like, oh, it's unlocked, like, we can go in here. They open up the door, and what do they see, bro? Okay, I gotta figure out how to say this without being thunderbolted. What do they see? Well, they see their teacher. And they also see the principal. I don't know why I said that so ominously, but yeah, so basically the teacher and the principal were in that room, and let me just give you guys a hint. They were not going over, like, schoolwork. They were not going over staff work or something. I don't know how else to say this, but yeah, let me just say that they were having a very intimate relationship at that current moment. And yeah, Mark and his friend Ben, they walked in on that. And let me just say that this was not disclosed to HR, probably because the principal was already married, so it was pretty clearly not disclosed to HR. And if you don't know, that's a pretty big no-no, especially like the principal has a power imbalance. So like the principal can't be doing that anyways. But if you're going to have a relationship within some kind of corporate entity or a school or something, you got to report it to HR or there can be like a lot of issues. Obviously, right. I mean, Mark and Ben just caught these two in a pretty big scandal. And pretty soon, like the principal and the teacher realized that two students have just walked in on the class and know very well what was this going on. So the principal's like, oh shit, like, oh man, I can't have this get out, man. Like I've worked so hard for this position, like I can't let this happen. And the teacher's like, oh my god, this is really bad. And right, so Mark, he's not the type of kid to like blackmail anyone. That's just not his style. But here's the thing, Ben, he was sick and tired of this class. He just wanted a good grade. He wanted, like, there was a certain, like, high school that you had to apply to that, like, Ben really wanted to get into. And, like, this grade was really going to help him get in or not get in. So Ben was like, all right, guys, here's the deal. I'm not going to say anything. And they're like, okay. And he's like, on one condition. And this seems pretty fair. And he turns to the teacher. He's like, teacher? And he says, like, the actual name of the teacher, but I don't feel like coming up with one. The average of your last test was a 52%. And the principal looked at her like, what the fuck? Like, bro, what? Do you hate these kids? And, you know, Ben is just like, that can't happen again. It's either the average has to naturally be an 85% or higher, or you have to curve it to an 85% or higher. And the teacher's like, that's it? That's your demands? And Ben's like, yeah, that's it. That's all I want. And the teacher's like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. And Ben's like, yeah, and if that doesn't happen, if that does not happen, yeah, this little thing is getting out. Like, with all due respect, like, I'm just trying to do well in this class. I'm just trying to get out of here. You guys have something going on that obviously is a little immoral, but I don't care. Personally, I just don't care. What I do care about is having a fair chance at this class. Honestly, Mark was kind of surprised they didn't just say to the teacher, give me like a 90 on every test or else I'll tell. Mark didn't need like, or no, Ben, sorry. Mark was surprised that Ben like didn't say that. But yeah, instead Ben, Ben could have failed that class, bro. He just asked that the average was something reasonable. So Ben was kind of yeah, he was using blackmail to get what he wanted, which is like a little not great. But at the same time, bro, he kind of helped out all of his classmates. And yeah, the principal's like, yeah, I'm so sorry that didn't happen before. And the teacher's like, of course, like, if we can just keep this between us, that'd be much appreciated. I will definitely, revisit my grading policies. And Ben was like, all right, good. Then, Mark and I will leave. We'll come back in 15 minutes. We'll tell nobody. And you guys will be back in your normal positions and life will go on. So anyways, right, Ben and Mark leave the classroom. And Ben just turns to Mark like, dude, oh my God. And Mark's like, bro, you're kind of a legend, bro. And Mark's like, yeah, bro. And Ben's like, yeah, dude, I kind of know. Like, I kind of did that. I'm kind of that guy. And Ben's just like, oh, bro, what about the group chat? And Mark said, all right, I got this. So Mark goes into the group chat and he sends a text saying, hey, like, let's see how the next test goes. Maybe the first test is just to like weed people out, right? If the next test is normal, let's not say anything unless it happens again. And everyone was like, because people were kind of on the fence of saying anything anyways. So people were like, okay, that's fair. And sure enough, the next test comes around and the average is an 87. And after that point, the average never drops below an 85. I'm not even kidding you. Subscribe if you haven't already. And now go watch another video. There's some on screen, some that recommended. You'll make me happy. Bye.